Breaking news, a brush fire is burning on Camp Pendleton.
The efforts to control the blaze that has now burned more than 200 acres.
Plus, why SDG&E shut off power today to some East County neighborhoods.
And today's motorcycle ride that raised money for injured sheriff's deputies and their families.
Also, immigrant rights advocates hit the streets for a national day of action.
Keep it right here. News 8 at 5 is next.
You're watching San Diego's breaking news leader. This is News 8 at 5.
Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news out of Camp Pendleton, where firefighters are battling a big brush fire, and the Santa Ana winds are fueling the flames. This fire broke out around 1 this afternoon near Naval Hospital, Camp Pendleton. It's burned 200 acres as of right now and still growing. News 8's Matt Johnson live in Oceanside with the very latest on this. Matt, good evening.
Good evening, Phil and Marcella. Yeah, this smoke is visible all throughout North County, and like you mentioned, it's 200 acres, and that number is growing by the hour. We know that 3 buildings have suffered some damage, but no injuries have been reported. But let's take a look from the Fallbrook Airport to give you a better idea of the smoke that's covering the North County. Right now, CAL FIRE says there is zero containment at the moment of this fire that broke out near Lake O'Neill, the eastern portion of the base, and these winds are not helping the fire crews on scene. We caught up with one staff sergeant on base, and here's how he described the fire.
The flames were visible throughout, and from my distance, the highest peak that I saw, I thought were about 100 feet plus. And I know that O'Neill housing complex was evacuated. They got real close to the Naval Hospital. You could see fire all around the Naval Hospital in certain pockets, and then the rest was already burned out.
Now, the fire was reported at around 1 o'clock this afternoon. It began north of Lake O'Neill and near that Naval Hospital you heard described, but officials tell us the fire poses no threat to the hospital. CAL FIRE is helping Camp Pendleton firefighters by providing 6 air tankers, 5 engines, and 2 helicopters. Meanwhile, the O'Neill Heights housing unit has been evacuated and is the only housing complex to have been evacuated so far. Volunteers are setting up at the Page Field House, which is doubling as an evacuation zone for now. Now, it's been a chaotic scene for many on base today, and here's how some evacuees describe the panic to Staff Sergeant Cameron Lee.
A few of them were talking as if they had just barely made it out. I don't know any of the details of O'Neill housing right now at present, like if there's any structures burned or anything, but she was saying how the police officers were running up and down the block trying to get people out, and that they had less than 5 minutes to gather their belongings and leave.
Now, a lot of families right now are sticking with social media to get the most information they can get. We spoke with some base officials who tell us they're in constant contact with crews on the scene to provide the latest up-to-the-minute information. Right now, there are more than 200 firefighters battling this fire that's at about 200 acres and growing, and it's been burning for about 4 hours and counting. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt, thank you. In meantime, SDG&E is trying to stay ahead of those Santa Ana winds.
Those winds are what caused some people to lose their power today. News 8's Shannon Handy is live in Tierra Santo to explain why San Diego Gas and Electric planned today's outage. Shannon.
Well, Phil and Marcella, you can see I'm surrounded by some dry brush, but as you guys mentioned, the real concern today are those high winds. It's not too bad where I am in Tierra Santa. Earlier, however, we were in East County and it was howling so bad, in fact, that SDG&E decided to shut off the power to some residents as a precaution.
When the winds get that strong, we know that bad things happen.
Which is why San Diego Gas and Electric shut off power for 83 customers in parts of East County like Descanso, Lake Cuyamaca, and Guatai.
What we're most concerned about, frankly, is the debris. It could be wind-blown debris that could make contact with our line, cause the line either to fall or to spark.
SDG&E officials made the decision based on readings from weather stations located in high-risk fire areas, including one near Carmondale's Descanso home.
The call came in at 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. I got 2 calls, and then the power went off at 8, came back on again.
Doreen Harlow received the same call. This time, however, her power stayed on.
They do it all the time.
And have you lost power before?
Oh, yeah. Since the witch fire, they've been doing it.
At least 1,500 homes were destroyed in the 2007 witch fire. SDG&E equipment was partially to blame. After looking at this weekend's fire potential index, the company decided not to take any chances.
This wind event and in terms of the dryness and the lack of humidity, etc., was going to be just one level below the worst fire potential.
We're just east of Alpine. Forecasters say wind gusts here are upwards of 65 miles per hour. It's not just a fire danger, but it's also a concern for drivers.
It's kind of scary. I mean, if I was in a high-profile vehicle, I definitely would not be coming up.
In Los Angeles overnight, big rig drivers had to pull over because of the wind.
You know, sometimes it'll come in gusts and it'll rock the whole truck.
And we could be seeing more of the same as this red flag warning continues through tomorrow.
But I would say the wind is blowing pretty good. It doesn't normally blow near like this at all.
We just got word from SDG&E. All power has been restored except for 2 customers, but if wind gusts get up to above 50 miles an hour overnight, that power could be shut off again. And coming up new at 6:30, there's a county supervisor who is not happy with what SDG&E is doing. I'll tell you who it is and what this person is saying. And with more on this red flag warning, we turn it over to meteorologist Natasha Stenbach. She is live in La Mesa with a first look at weather. Natasha.
Yes, hello. We're live here on Oktoberfest in La Mesa. While people here are celebrating, firefighting danger, of course, still exists out there. Winds have suddenly turned onshore. We're going to continue to see those winds shift throughout the afternoon. Now, red flag warning continues at least through Sunday night. That includes our local mountain and inland valley areas. You're looking at the areas impacted the most be over those ridge tops, Pine Valley through Escondido, but the desert and the coast not included in that red flag warning that continues all the way through 6 o'clock tomorrow. Wind gusts, the extreme wind gusts could exceed 50 to 55 miles per hour out of the east-northeast through tomorrow evening. So checking out your temperatures tomorrow afternoon, we'll be up to about 83 degrees along the coast, inland valleys, mid-90s. That's right, 95 tomorrow in places right here like La Mesa, 72 in the mountains, desert temperature, even cooler than our inland valleys, 91. Tomorrow along the coast, you'll have more of that onshore flow out of the northwest at about 10 miles per hour, but inland valleys to our mountain areas, expecting that offshore flow, those Santa Ana winds to continue with gusts upwards of 35 miles per hour in our local mountain locations. That's it for us out here live in Oktoberfest. It's a good time out here. Everyone dressed nice and cool. Keep staying in the shade, and if you have any plans to be outdoors tomorrow, find your shady spot and drink plenty of water. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Natasha, thank you. A deadly end to the 5.5-hour SWAT standoff at a condo complex in Bonita. Gunfire was reported at the complex in the 2900 block of Briarwood Road around 5 o'clock Friday. When sheriff's deputies arrived, they found a man and a woman, both with gunshot wounds, and saw another man running into a condo armed with a rifle. Several hours later, a SWAT team sent in a robot that found him with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Both victims were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The identity of the suspect, described as a 45-year-old Hispanic man, has not been released. El Cajon police are searching for a man who robbed a convenience store at gunpoint last night. It happened just after 10 at the AM/PM store at 725 North 2nd Street. Police say the man had a gun and threatened a clerk demanding money. He then drove off in a black car. The suspect is described as black or Hispanic, tall and thin. If you have any information about this crime, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers at 888-580-8477.
2 men were hospitalized with stab wounds and a third was arrested after a fight in Mission Beach early this morning. The brawl broke out just after 2 a.m. in the 3200 block of Mission Boulevard. 2 men were each stabbed twice in the back. They were taken to Scripps La Jolla Hospital. Another man ran off and threw the knife in the bay, but officers found it and caught the suspect. And 2 women who were under the influence of alcohol suffered serious injuries after getting hit by a car in Barrio Logan. Authorities tell us the women were trying to cross Main Street just after midnight last night when they ran into a path of an oncoming car. Both of them were taken to a hospital, one with serious leg injuries and the other with a broken arm.
Hundreds of motorcycle riders cruised to the backcountry today to raise money for injured sheriff's deputies.
As News 8's Steve Price shows us, among those attending the event, 3 deputies shot in the line of duty in just the past 13 months.
Bill and Marcella, more than 300 motorcycle riders, the majority of them not even law enforcement, coming together today to raise money for the San Diego Deputy Sheriff's Association. Money the association hopes it never has to spend. It's called the Save the Bacon Ride. Money raised to help the families of local sheriff's deputies injured on the job.
It started last year on the heels of a horrific shooting in Lakeside where we had 2 deputies critically injured.
It happened September 2012. A suspected child molester opened fire on the deputies as they were coming to arrest him. Detective Ollie Perez, an 18-year veteran, was in critical condition after being shot in the torso. Sergeant Craig Johnson was shot in the same area and left in serious condition.
This is awesome.
Today, both of them are well on the road to recovery and attended the fundraiser, which especially helped Detective Perez's family during a tough time.
I've been a direct beneficiary of this, and I can't wait for some, not that I want somebody to be hurt, but I want to help somebody's family. It's about helping somebody's family in time of need, and it doesn't get any better than that.
Today's ride through the back hills and mountains took most riders about 3 hours and ended with a party at the finish line, the Deputy Sheriff's Association headquarters.
As a deputy, you sometimes feel that people don't understand what you do. But today, and certainly last year's event, is a testament to the amount of support that we do get from the community.
Another shooting less than 8 months ago in Encinitas reminded the community of just how dangerous law enforcement's job can be. Deputy Colin Snodgrass was shot in the knee by a man with a history of mental illness and heroin abuse. Deputy Snodgrass, who is still recovering from his injuries, also made an appearance at today's fundraiser.
It's exciting to see all the support. I got to feel the support firsthand, but to see it like this, it's exciting.
So how much did this year's event raise? Well, they are still totaling it up, but they say it will be over $15,000. Back to you in the studio.
Steve, thank you very much. This year's ride also honored Deputy Michael McFarland, who died September 24th from a heart attack. McFarland, who worked out of the Valley Center substation, was just 46 years old. He leaves behind a wife and 4 kids.
Immigration rights advocates marched in the streets of San Diego today for a national day of action for dignity and respect.
Hundreds of supporters met in Balboa Park to take part in a protest that aims to delay immigration legislation and hopes to grant illegal immigrants citizenship. With the federal government on furlough right now, they're hoping Governor Brown can lead the way.
10 a.m. this morning, Governor Brown made the very bold statement that if the federal government's not going to act on immigration reform, he is, and that California is going to lead the way. He signed 8 bills altogether and just basically said we're frustrated. We're frustrated with the federal government not acting, but we can do things here in California for immigrants.
Today's protest was one of 10, actually 19 rather, scheduled rallies in California, one of at least 130 across the country today.
Gulf Coast residents brace for heavy wind and rain as Tropical Storm Karen approaches.
Plus severe weather in the Midwest as multiple tornadoes touch down.
Hundreds of thousands of Pentagon employees will return to work, but is the government any closer to reopening? I'm Susan McGinnis in Washington. I'll have the latest coming up.
It's day 5 of the government shutdown, and there's still no end in sight, but hundreds of thousands of federal employees are being told to return to work. Susan McGinnis reports from the nation's capital.
Senate will come to order.
Many of the workers furloughed during the shutdown will soon be back on the job. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel says he can legally bring back most of the 350,000 civilian Department of Defense employees. As for the rest of the government workers sitting at home, the House unanimously passed legislation that would give furloughed employees retroactive pay once the shutdown is over. The Senate and President are expected to approve.
Doesn't do me any good right now because I'm still not getting paid.
Darren Citron is an IT manager for the National Science Foundation. He's encouraged about back pay, but his wife says the bills are already piling up.
If those checks don't come in the next couple of weeks, what happens to you?
Start praying really hard.
While hundreds of thousands of workers will go back on the job and others wait for pay, there is still no deal in sight to restart the government. Republicans say they want to negotiate health care with the president.
This administration has been
almost absent when it comes to discussions and working out our differences.
But the president and Democrats say there will be no negotiations until the government is reopened.
This crisis could be over in hours.
Meanwhile, the Citrons have a message for lawmakers.
The House, the Senate, and the president all need to come to some sort of consensus.
Something many government workers are no doubt hoping for. Susan McGinnis, CBS News, Washington.
Breaking news, the U.S. military has captured an al-Qaeda leader linked to the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. Abu Anas was captured alive near Tripoli in a joint operation by the U.S. military, the CIA, and the FBI. Anas has been high on the list of the U.S. government's most wanted fugitives since at least 2000, when a New York court indicted him for his part in planning the embassy attacks. The FBI had offered a bounty of up to $5 million for information leading to his capture. A man who set himself on fire on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Friday afternoon has died. Police say the man passed away last night at a hospital where he'd been airlifted to. His injuries were so severe, we understand, that authorities will have to use DNA and dental records to positively identify him. The man poured a can of gasoline on himself and set himself on fire. Investigators are still trying to determine a motive for his actions.
Some wild weather blew through the Midwest on Friday, delivering a round of dangerous tornadoes. The most powerful touched down in Wayne, Nebraska. The EF4 twister destroyed about a dozen homes, flipped cars, and ruptured a natural gas line. The storm line produced several tornadoes, causing damage in Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa. There were reports of some minor injuries, but fortunately, no deaths. Tropical storm Karen is losing strength, but could still pack a punch of high winds and heavy rains. The system did stall for several hours today, and the tropical storm warning is now only in effect for part of coastal Louisiana. Marley Hall has the latest.
It really was just another day at the beach in Pensacola. Beachgoers enjoyed the sun, the sand, and the active surf, despite the lingering threat of Karen.
Waves are a little sloppier than usual, but a great day at the beach.
Probably the only issue that we might have would be storm surge.
A wedding party boarded this trolley for a ceremony downtown. The bride and groom managed to squeeze in their vows before Karen had a chance to come between them.
I was very nervous about the storm at first, but the weather's so finicky here that I had a feeling it probably wasn't going to rain.
It's a blessing that we don't have, the hurricane didn't come. Of course, rain or shine, we're both going to be very happy.
Even though Karen has weakened and become less organized, forecasters are warning Gulf Coast residents to remain vigilant.
Regardless of a high-end depression, low-end tropical storm, the impacts will be very similar.
That means high winds and potential flash flooding.
The storm surge could cause flooding above ground level of 1 to 3 feet in some spots.
Officials in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana say evacuations there are now voluntary, not mandatory. Karen is expected to weaken even more as it heads inland by Monday. Marley Hall for CBS News, Pensacola Beach, Florida.
Now your microclimate forecast presented by Lexus Carlsbad.
And of course, on this side of the country, we are dealing with some hot, dry weather. And Natasha, those winds are gusting pretty strongly today.
Yeah, they sure have been. Reports of winds anywhere from about 30 to 40 miles per hour for our local mountain peaks. That's excessive, but where it's been the worst is up in San Bernardino County, Riverside County, where gusts have exceeded 50, even 60 miles per hour. Right here in La Mesa, we're live for Oktoberfest going on all the way through tomorrow. And you know what? Daytime highs are going to feel pretty hot. Right now, we're very comfortable, in the shade anyway, where temperatures are now in the upper 70s right around La Mesa. San Diego, 82 degrees, wind out of the northwest at about 13. Relative humidity, it's really dry out there, 13%, and your pressure is falling. So in terms of wind speeds elsewhere across the county, we're going to feel them die down temporarily, then pick back up. That red flag warning remains in effect all the way through tomorrow, 6 o'clock. That includes our local mountains and our inland valley locations. Currently across the county, how hot is it elsewhere? Well, as we take a look at your current conditions here, we have 86 in Mira Mesa, Alpine 81, 82 in Ramona, El Cajon 91, 86 Otay Mesa, Chula Vista holding on to 84. It is 80 57 in Vista, 61 Palomar, 64 in Julian. You know, mountain areas feel good, but winds make things a little uncomfortable there, not to mention how dry it is. How about your wind speeds? So far, we've really seen some improvements just in the last half hour. Pretty calm right now in Del Mar, turning onshore for our coastal communities, and it's varying between northwest and east, pretty much your dividing line being the 67 there. Ramona east-northeast at about 17 miles per hour. Palomar Mountain between 6 and 10. Otay west at 7. Mount Laguna reporting calm, east 14 to 20 in Julian. Borrego not doing too bad, southwest at about 8. Northwest at 13 in San Diego. So surf, that's the place where you can go to cool off, 68 degrees. Waves out of the southwest about 2 to 5 feet tomorrow, so high rip current risk for sure. Sunrise time tomorrow morning, 6:46, sunsets at 6:26. And your tides look like this. High tide, 10:23. Tomorrow morning, low tide, it'll be a negative low tide just a few minutes after 5 in the evening. So coming up in the next few minutes, we're going to talk more about your extended forecast, what you can expect for the rest of the week in just a few minutes. Temperature-wise for you tomorrow, you can expect some nice conditions, at least early in the morning, but it'll take some time before we start to warm up. The good news is, believe it or not, we have rain in the forecast. Yeah, we're talking about 3 days from now. A little bit of rain. We're going to tell you what areas it's going to impact and how much rain we're expecting and how long it's going to last coming up in just a few minutes. For now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, we sure need it. Thanks so much, Natasha. Coming up, the Olympic flame for the 2014 Winter Games is handed over to Russia.
Plus, the huge tip an Oregon bartender received and what she plans to do with it.
We'll also take a look at the newly redesigned $100 bill. You're watching News 8 at 5. The Olympic flame was officially passed to Russia today for the 2014 Sochi Winter Games. The flame was presented to Russia in Greece's ancient stadium where the first modern-day Olympics were held way back in 1896. The flame you see right there will be flown in a special safety lantern from Athens to Moscow on Sunday, and then it will travel more than 40,000 miles, including a trip to space, before it reaches its final resting place in Sochi.
An extraordinary fireworks show lit up Sydney's skyline today. Australia is celebrating 100 years since the Royal Australian Navy fleet first entered Sydney. The event was advertised as the most complex, highly choreographed fireworks lighting and live action show ever seen in the world. Check that out. They didn't disappoint. Fireworks were launched all over Sydney Harbour in front of an estimated 1 million spectators. The newly redesigned $100 bill is about to debut. The Federal Reserve Board says the new currency will begin circulating starting on Tuesday. It includes security features that are new, among them a blue 3D security ribbon that will make it easier for people to authenticate and much harder for counterfeiters to replicate.
We don't have to worry about that, right? We just got like 1s and 5s,
yeah, that's it.
A few 20s. A bartender in Oregon, speaking of cash, received the tip of a lifetime this week.
Jared Tilber tells us more about the generous gratuity.
Aurora Kephart was working Tuesday night as she usually does. Restaurant owner George Conway says she's his longest serving bartender and loved by customers.
She's one of our very best employees, and she's been here almost 4 years. We have a regular following, if you will, of just some of the nicest folks you'd ever want to meet.
It was a normal night here at Conway's Restaurant and Lounge in Springfield until a regular customer left an unusual tip.
The patron often left keynote tickets instead of cash tips. This night was no different. Kephart chose 2 slips. After checking her customers' numbers, she scanned the ones given to her. Her winnings flashed on a screen facing the bar.
I turned it around and I automatically just went, oh, and I handed it back to him. And I said, it's your ticket, you take it back, you bought it, it's your ticket.
The man refused to take back the winning ticket, worth $17,500. That's right, more than $17,000. Kephart already has plans for some of the money.
I just want new couches. I've been shopping for couches, so it came perfect timing.
She says she'll save the rest for the future.
That's incredible.
What a nice guy,
yeah,
huh?
Better than a cash tip. Absolutely.
17 grand.
Hit the jackpot. Coming up, the world's first FDA-approved bionic eye.
Plus, a passenger with a medical condition is airlifted off a cruise ship right off San Diego's coast.
And the fiery crash in Oxnard after a big rig flies off a freeway ramp and crashes into a car dealership.
You're watching San Diego's breaking news leader. This is News 8 at 5.
We've been following tonight's top story, breaking news that we continue to follow. A fire burning on Camp Pendleton. It has burned about 250 acres, and crews say they have no containment at this hour. Now, we have just learned that some patients at the hospital on base have been evacuated as a precaution. The fire that you see right here was reported around 1 o'clock this afternoon near Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton. That is just north of Lake O'Neill. CAL FIRE is assisting Camp Pendleton firefighters, sending 6 air tankers, 5 engines, and 2 copters to help fight this blaze. 3 buildings do have minor damage, but no injuries so far have been reported. We have a crew on the scene, and we'll bring you another live update on News 8 at 6:30.
A big rig careened off a freeway and into a car dealership, catching 10 cars on fire. This happened near Oxnard at a CarMax parking lot. The truck was hauling Bounty paper products when it veered off southbound 101 freeway. A total of 16 vehicles were damaged, and the truck driver was taken to a hospital with unknown injuries. The cause of the crash is still under investigation tonight. A newlywed has pleaded not guilty to murder and other charges. The death of her husband just 8 days. Jordan Graham is accused of pushing him to his death during a hike in a Montana national park. Casey Wyan reports.
Did you kill Cody? Prosecutors originally charged Montana newlywed Jordan Graham with second-degree murder, but now a grand jury has added a charge of premeditated first-degree murder, which carries a minimum sentence of life in prison. The couple was only married for 8 days when they got into a fight on July 7th. Still upset, they decided to take a hike where the fighting continued. Things got physical. Graham pushed her husband in the back, sending him face first off the cliff. Prosecutors say Graham admitted 9 days later to pushing Johnson off the cliff in a fit of anger. Her defense attorney says it was all an accident, and following her arrest last month, Graham was allowed to live here with her parents under home confinement, where she remains today. Levi and Latani Blaisdell have known Graham since childhood. Levi introduced the couple. Levi says the bride-to-be was acting strangely before they walked down the aisle.
She was crying hysterically before she even got to the altar. There was no joy that she was about to get married.
After her husband's death, the Blaisdells say they noticed more strange behavior from the widowed bride.
Whenever I saw her, she was just herself. Nothing happened, no emotion, nothing. It was her same old life. So we always had that little bit in the back of our mind saying, you know, I think she may be involved.
Now, Graham is also charged with making false statements about her husband's death, originally saying that he went out to the park with out-of-town guests. Her attorney has admitted she lied to authorities, but calls the murder charge reprehensible.
A 75-year-old man who suffered a heart attack while on board a cruise ship off San Diego's coast was airlifted to shore. The crew of Holland America's Westerdam contacted the Coast Guard around 11 last night requesting a medevac. You see video of the rescue operation right here. An MH-60 Jayhawk helicopter from San Diego arrived on scene and hoisted the patient and ship's nurse into the aircraft. The man was then taken to a local hospital. There is no word today on his condition.
After more than 20 years in the making, the world's first FDA-approved bionic eye will soon be launching commercially right here in the U.S.
It's really exciting because this device could help thousands of people who suffer from degenerative eye disease. Simi Doss explains how the device works to bring light into darkness.
Attorney Dean Lloyd suffers from retinitis pigmentosa, a degenerative eye disease which destroys photoreceptor cells and impedes a person's ability to detect light.
I saw nothing, except maybe I could ascertain daytime from nighttime.
Now, a device 20 years in the making that will soon be commercially available in the U.S. is helping patients like Lloyd.
That perception was sort of like a flash of light. Well, now I can see boundaries and borders.
The Argus 2 by Second Sight was FDA approved earlier this year, and patients are being screened at the 12 major U.S. hospitals chosen as implant centers. The device includes a chip with an array of electrodes that's implanted on the retina, and glasses with a video camera that wirelessly transmits images.
It converts that video into a 60-pixel image that then delivers electronic impulses to the 60 little electrodes in the chip that then stimulate the retina to generate a perception or message that the brain can then interpret and understand.
The device doesn't restore vision, but patients can detect light and dark, thus identifying an object's location and movement.
I walk down a sidewalk from a bus stop to my office on a daily basis, and I can see where the grass comes up to a sidewalk.
The device is not going to enable them to, drive a car or, read fine print on a newspaper, but that it might help them enjoy better quality of life.
Lloyd says he now almost feels naked without them.
They say, sir, oh, your Google glasses look really nice. That's good, doctor.
Making some take a second look at the first government-approved bionic eye. Sumi Das, San Francisco, CNET for CBS News.
People in Mid-City are demanding a stop to domestic violence.
Community members, county officials, and domestic violence survivors gathered today for a concert and rally to raise awareness. In 2012, there were 16,000 reported cases of domestic violence in San Diego County, and experts are reminding all of us tonight that domestic violence can happen to anyone.
We believe that domestic violence crosses the limitation of culture, religion, political view, economic status, so it could happen anywhere, any place, anytime.
More than 24 domestic violence-related homicides were reported in the county last year. News 8's Carlo Cicchetto emceed today's event. Well, if you have a newer model iPhone, you probably talk to her all the time.
Yeah, but who is Siri? We'll introduce you to the woman behind the voice when we come back.
And we are live in La Mesa Oktoberfest. It's the one place where you can find kettle corn and beer steins all in one. And you know what? The temperature is cooling down. Feels pretty good. We'll have your 8-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Siri, who are you?
Who I am isn't important.
Sure it is. You've heard her voice many times. You may have even asked her for directions. We're talking about Siri, the iPhone's virtual assistant.
But who is the woman behind this famous voice? Here's an inside look at the voice of Siri.
Hello, I am Susan Bennett. You probably know me. I'm the voice actor who provided the voice for Siri. The first time I actually heard my voice as Siri was when my friend emailed me and said, "Isn't this you?"
Not bad. Only 2 meetings today.
And because I didn't have the newest version of the iPhone, I went to the Apple site, and that's where I heard the voice, and I just went, oh, that is me. Siri, would you like to be interviewed by CNN?
This is about you, Susan, not me.
I started my life as a machine quite young. I was the voice of Tilly the all-time teller, the first ATM machine. I'm Tilly the all-time teller. I work for First National Bank. The Siri voices were recorded in 2005 in the month of July, 4 hours a day for the whole month. So when I recorded those voices, I had absolutely no idea where they would end up. My voice can be heard on many GPS systems, many telephone systems. Siri, who is the real voice of Siri? When I first discovered that that was my voice, to be honest, it was a little creepy.
Yes, it appears to be raining.
I'm used to hearing my voice maybe in the airport. Thank you for using Delta Airlines. But this real thing that you can interact with on in your hand was a little. It took some time for me to get used to it. But she and I are friends now. I'm leaving now, Siri. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Susan. I hope you have a nice day as well.
Now, your microclimate forecast presented by Lexus Carlsbad.
Siri doesn't don't know about San Diego's fire danger, though, and the Santa Ana winds. For that, we turn to meteorologist Natasha Stenbach. Natasha, still windy out there? I don't see your hair blowing around too much.
It's really perfect right here in La Mesa, Marcella. Nice breeze. I'm standing for the most part in the shade, and that's exactly what you need to find. If you're going to be out here for Oktoberfest tomorrow, be sure to just dress in some lightweight clothing, drink plenty of water in addition to your beer steins, you know what I'm saying? And find the shade, because tomorrow it's going to be another hot one. Again, very dry and again windy. Some of the top wind speeds that we've seen so far across the county have been pretty extreme, anywhere from 45 to even 50 miles per hour. Some of the top winds were found, of course, in our local mountain areas. That's why we have that red flag warning in effect all the way through tomorrow evening. So looking at your current conditions so far, downtown San Diego, we have 82 degrees, wind out of the northwest at about 15. Relative humidity is still very dry out there, only 14%. El Cajon, we're seeing an onshore flow now, west at about 12 miles per hour. So in terms of your red flag warning, what's in store for us all the way through tomorrow night, 6 o'clock? This includes our inland valleys, our mountains. Strongest winds could be found below places like Cuyamaca Peak and along the coastal foothills. Relative humidity down in the teens and single digits. And those easterly winds, those strong Santa Ana winds, 20 to 30 miles per hour. And we're talking about sustained wind speed here, with gusts occasionally upwards of 50 to even 55 miles per hour. So checking out some of your highs that we had earlier today, so far we're talking about a really hot day, anywhere from about 10 to 15 degrees above average. Some of your highs right around the valley, we got up to 86 in Ramona, 63 in Julian, 92 in Oceanside, 72 in Vista, and 85 downtown San Diego. So some of those temperatures well above average for this afternoon. We're expecting a repeat performance in our temperatures tomorrow. Looking at the satellite radar imagery now, what we have setting up for us offshore is a new trough of low pressure. As this sucker comes in, and I'm giving it a cute little name here because it's going to actually deliver something. This is what we're expecting. Forecast models are showing us anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to as much as 1/2 inch of rain expected with this particular system coming on through. Of course, who's going to get the brunt of it would be places like Los Angeles, our neighbors to the north. So we're expecting a little bit of rain for us as we come into the middle of the week, but we're going to have to wait a couple of days. But I think this is going to be a nice welcome change, especially after the kind of heat that we've had. Tomorrow's highs will once again be in the mid-80s along the coast, inland valleys. You can expect to get up to about 94 to 95. Still some strong winds, feeling very dry. Onshore flow returns for us as we get to Monday. So Monday, everyone, even though it's the start of the work week, everyone is going to feel much better on Monday, temperature-wise, and just the way it feels out there, everything, we're going to have a big improvement. Wednesday, one of our coolest days, in addition to the rain that we're expecting from this next trough of low pressure. So we're talking about an onshore flow, winds returning from the west. We won't be as dry. We're going to add a little bit of rain to the mix, and then back to the heat again for this upcoming weekend. All right, out here live in La Mesa for Oktoberfest. You want to come on out here? Plenty of food to be had. I am trying to find the beer. I'm not going to drink on the job, you guys, but I think there are some fine refreshments here in La Mesa. We're going to send it back to you.
Well, we're just hoping that you maybe on the next report have a bratwurst in one hand and a beer stein in the other. There you go.
You've got to do some research out there, Natasha.
Exactly.
A little taste test. No. We'll see in a little bit. The Toreros look to remain unbeaten in the Pioneer League. John Howard has highlights of their game against undefeated Mercer next.
We're going to take a look back at the Aztecs' overtime thriller last night. Sports is coming up after the break.
And now, News 8 Sports. Here's John Howard.
I noticed that John's nails are a lot shorter today, as well as some other Aztec fans, because of that nail biter last night. Wow.
Yeah, it was a nail biter, and you know, if you watched it, it's kind of like the games of old.
Yeah, it was kind of a nice.
Yeah, it was. The final score was 51-44. Truly an Aztec classic, and if you're old school, it's the type of score you're used to. But oftentimes, the Aztecs would be on the losing end of such a score. Last night in the third quarter, Aztec quarterback Quinn Kaler hits Eric Judge a 5-yard touchdown. Aztecs up by 21. But as has happened in decades past, the Aztecs failed to put the game away, and with less than 2 minutes to go, Nevada scores a 5-yard touchdown of their own. We're all tied up. 21 unanswered points for the Wolfpack in the fourth quarter. In overtime, Kaler's going to roll out of the pocket, and he hits Judge again. A 13-yard strike gives the Aztecs a 7-point lead. On Nevada's possession, last chance for them. Fajardo overthrows his receiver, and State gets the win, 51-44.
The best part of the deal is that our players never quit and kept playing, and probably the best we played was in the overtime.
After winning this game, it feels like it's the start of something. It's not really losing anything. This is the start, because how we started off the season and what we have for our goals, how we want to finish it, this is the start. So winning that first conference game was pretty big.
That it was. Next week, State plays Thursday at Air Force. Today, USD was taking on Mercer. They're in Georgia. It's the first season for Mercer in the Pioneer League, and they came in with an impressive record of 4-0. But the Toreros weren't too impressed. Mason Mills threw for 413 yards and 3 touchdowns. Only 3 incomplete passes all day for the Coronado High alum. Ken James broke free for a 50-yard touchdown. He had 86 yards rushing on the day. James also added a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to start the game as USD wins big, 45-13. The Toreros are now 2-0 in conference. Number 6 Georgia played at unranked, wannabe trendy in their gray uniforms, Tennessee. Check out Chris Conley of Georgia with the one-handed catch for the touchdown. Sweet. Bulldogs lead 10-0. This game goes to overtime. Tennessee's Alton Howard, no relation, dives into the end zone for an apparent score, but upon further review, it's correctly ruled Howard fumbled the ball before crossing the plane of the end zone. And when it rolls out of the end zone, the ball goes to Georgia. Georgia's Marshall Morgan nails the game winner from 42 yards out as Georgia survives to win 34-31 in overtime. It's an AFC West Super Sunday here on CBS 8 tomorrow. We'll air the Chiefs game at 10 a.m., followed by the Broncos. They play the Cowboys at 1:25. A post-game show will follow that. And then at 8 o'clock is a special edition of News 8, which will have a heavy emphasis on previewing the Chargers-Raiders game. It's about time a sports guy's got dominant position in a half-hour newscast. And time permitting, we will have a post-game show following the Chargers game. All right, day 3 of the President's Cup at the 15th hole. Tiger Woods from 238 yards away. It's a fantastic second shot to within 3 feet of the cup. The international team would concede the hole there. Tiger and Matt Kuchar win their match 1-up to earn a point for the U.S. Then in the afternoon, alternate shot format. Zach Johnson's third shot, also at 15, is perfect. That goes into the cup for Eagle to win the hole and the match. The USA leads 11.5 to 6.5. Play was suspended due to darkness, and they'll have more tomorrow.
You know, Marcel and I were talking. If you want that whole half hour, we'll be glad to take the night off, John.
Bring it on. We'll take it.
You and Kyle go right ahead.
We are looking forward to a lot of fun tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be busy.
It's going to be a long day and a fun day.
All right. Get ready. Get some sleep tonight.
Yeah.
We'll have a microclimate forecast update, plus what's ahead at 6:30 next.
Coming up tonight at 6:30, we'll have the very latest on the fire burning at Camp Pendleton and the dangerous fire conditions across San Diego County. Also, a car thief takes off in a Boston police cruiser, but the joyride comes to a crashing conclusion. The charges the suspect is now facing. That's tonight on News 8 at 6:30.
Let's take a final check on our microclimate forecast with meteorologist Natasha Stenbach. She's live in La Mesa at Oktoberfest, where, Natasha, on this hot, hot day, you know, it is a risky fire season, but a lot of people there are probably toasting with those nice cold beers.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to stay cool here at Oktoberfest in La Mesa. First, find the shade, find the beer, and there's, you know, there are other non-alcoholic drinks here at Oktoberfest that you can find. Plenty of things to do for the kids, too. So if you want to spend the day here tomorrow, just be sure to dress nice and cool, find the shade, and drink plenty of water. So let's take a look at your forecast and see what's in store for the rest of our weekend. Red flag warning remains in effect for inland valleys and also our mountains all the way through tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Wind speeds, again, could exceed 50 to even 55 miles per hour. Your 8-day forecast, dare we say the R word? Yep, rain in the forecast. A 20-degree drop in a matter of 3 to 4 days. Expecting rain for Wednesday. Onshore flow returns on Monday, so you'll start to see a nice difference in your weather for us starting on Monday. But tomorrow's high inland, 95 degrees. We'll send it back to you.
All right, and that Camp Pendleton fire up to 15% containment now. More at 6:30.